I really didn't enjoy school. I love learning. School is not my cup of tea. The format of the way they teach, and it's really tough for me to stay focused. It really challenges the thinking of whether you just follow with all your buddies, go to college and not really sure what you're doing or what you're up to. I always thought it was really weird when people would go to school to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't understand that. Like, there's a degree for that. If you got an idea and there's a problem to solve, go do it.
In a corporate world where all employees have great leaders with no egos that create fun cultures where people can do their best work, the employees and companies thrive while doing great things for the customers, themselves, and each other.
Well, we know that rarely happens. I'm Jeff Palacio. I have been a leader for over 40 years for every t-shirt size company, from small 16 employees to extra large over 1 million. Please join me while I interview outstanding leaders that will share stories of great leadership and not so great. It will help you become a better leader while poking fun about all the crazy shit that happens in corporate America.
Hi, I'm Joe Deshawn, and welcome to the Corporate Couch with Jeff Palacio. Today's episode is brought to you by Exec HQ, a C-suite fractional firm providing elite executives for your business. Today, Jeff is interviewing Glenn Fisher. Glenn is the CEO of the healthcare analytics and solutions company, NavMD. Prior to NavMD, he built one of the largest servicing platforms in the financial technology industry, with annual revenues of more than $2 billion. Glenn is a serial entrepreneur who has started and led several businesses in waste management, data security, and employee benefits. Challenged by the frustration of buying employee benefits, he acquired NavMD with the mission to fix employee benefits one plan at a time. You can learn more about Glenn at navmd.com. Let's listen as Jeff talks to Glenn.
Glenn, welcome to the Corporate Couch this morning.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me to join you.
Yeah, no, I believe I'm almost 100% positive that out of my almost 100 guests, you're the first one going to do the interview standing up, because it looks like you're standing up in your office.
I am. Yeah,
There you
I'm
go.
a stand-up guy. I don't like to sit around and be inactive. So that's my deal.
You're a stand-up guy in many ways, Glenn.
Well, thanks.
Besides your fantastic professional career, which obviously we're going to talk about, I mean, I love your, volunteering with various organizations. One being the Dream Factory. It looks like you had a long, still on the advisory board there, and HEMP and Fellowship of Christian Athletes. So you obviously give back, and a man of faith, not only of faith but integrity. So excited to talk to you.
Well, thank you, Jeff. I mean, can you call my wife after this show and just remind her of those things? That would be really helpful.
Yes, and as we discussed prior to pressing the record button, married for 34 years. So there you go. You're the guy. So so let's talk about a fun question. So even people that know you fairly well, Glenn, what would be one thing that surprises them about you?
Maybe that when I was a kid, I was always trying to figure out ways to solve problems. And when I was a kid, I would go door to door when it was snowing and shovel driveways with the hope that somebody would pay me like $1 or $2 to shovel their driveway, or the same with mowing lawns. Or one Christmas, I was like, man, I need some money to buy my parents and sisters some Christmas gifts. So I went door to door selling not selling Christmas carols, singing Christmas carols.
Oh, wow.
With the hopes that somebody in, the streets of Belleville, New Jersey would give me a couple dollars so I could buy Christmas presents.
So you literally would mow the lawn or shovel the walkway or driveway, and then knock on the door to ask for money?
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I wouldn't ask for money. I would just say, hey, hope hey, your driveway's clean, your lawn's mowed, let me know if I can help you, in the future.
Now, what percent of people did you receive payment from? Just if you remember.
Almost all. I mean,
Okay.
it's interesting, I connect this back with how in business I think it makes sense to give value first and not expect anything in return. If you help enough people get what they want, you'll never have to worry about getting what you want. That's kind of the philosophy I've
Yeah, the
kind of
Zig
got out of.
Ziglar was a
Yes,
yeah, love Zig. I
me
won't
too.
try to impersonate his southern accent, but he was a master in terms of relationship building and help and providing value to others. So yeah, great story.
Yeah, I've listened to all of Zig Ziglar's stuff. I mean, you talked about cassette tapes. I had
Yeah.
all his tapes as well. And one of the things he suggested that young sales guys do is grab the business journal, and in the back, years ago there used to be those announcements. Hey, Jeff just got promoted to VP of sales at blah 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 blah. And so I would every week religiously sit down and write hand notes to people. Hey, I saw you in the news. Congratulations. I'm in business in this community. Look forward to meeting you soon. I would get phone calls out of the blue with people wanting to connect. And I probably made more sales with that approach. I mean, two big meetings. One was with Lee Iacocca. I sent Lee Iacocca a note. He responded, and I printed out all his t-shirts and his golf shirts for an event he had. And then I got a call from Zig Ziglar himself,
Wow.
wanted to have lunch with me. And the new president, his name was Ron Land. So we had lunch together. And at first I thought it was a joke. That
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, right. You're one of my buddies that I'm always telling about Zig Ziglar, that you should listen to Zig Ziglar. And they're messing with me. But it was truly Zig Ziglar. So I had lunch with Zig Ziglar as a result of following that weekly habit.
Okay, we're going to get back to that, but I had a quick similar story.
Yeah.
I right out of college, one of my roommates in college, he was a year ahead of me, and I lived with him for I think only one semester, honestly. So I get a phone call from the FBI. I just started my career. Hey, this is the FBI. I'm agent blah 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 in the Kansas City office. I'm here to you were used as a reference for so and so. And I'm going, get the hell out of here. Just one of my buddies. He goes, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm serious. I go, no, no, it can't be. And because this guy was a little bit out there, and so I'm thinking he's going to be an FBI agent. Anyhow, he goes, here's the Kansas City office. Here's my name. Here's the number. Call back. And I had looked it up in the phone book. It was the Kansas City office, and this guy
Wow.
was legit. And I'm pretty sure that so it was interesting. But anyhow, okay. So wait, Lee Iacocca and Zig Ziglar. Um,
Yeah.
how did these happen around the same time? Like, how old were you when both of these events happened? Because this is phenomenal.
Yeah. So after I finished college and got out of the Marine Corps, I was, living in Dallas at age, I guess it would be 22 years old. So that at the time I had a t-shirt business. I was basically selling t-shirts. I had another group that would print them for me. When I was in the Marine Corps and in college, I was making $500 a week doing that t-shirt business. And I thought, wow, if I did it actual full time, I could make some good money. And I did. And that business ended up, I ended up printing all the t-shirts for the Hard Rock cafes nationwide, Dallas Mavericks, the Dallas Sidekicks, the Kansas City Chiefs was one of my clients in Dallas, which because their owner was based in Dallas.
So obviously, I mean, like you're a kid, you're shoveling snow, you're mowing lawns, you're singing Christmas carols. All, I mean, where did you get this I mean, because really, when we talked about prior to us doing this formal interview, is like your career is just amazing in terms of what you've done and the businesses you started and the number of them. I mean, where did this kind of entrepreneurial bug? How did you get it?
I don't know. I mean, I almost think I was just born that way. I've always kind of looked at problems and tried to figure out ways to solve them, and that's generally how I've gotten into every one of the businesses I've been a part of. And I'm truly grateful for seeing the opportunities and having the ability to act on them. I think so many people have some good ideas, but maybe they have kids, they have, they're currently working and don't have the time or the energy to act on them. But I feel truly blessed to be able to see an opportunity and to act on it.
Yeah, I've interviewed a fair amount of ex-military. Some you'll know. Baron Lucas, Sly James, former mayor of Kansas City, Dave Comar, recently Tony Hoffman. So, just one, thank you for your service. I know. So, what was it like, and what was your decision process after high school? You went to the Marines, and you're in a fighter attack squadron. So tell us about that decision, as well as, obviously the lessons you learned in your 6 years in the Marines.
Yeah, I don't know. At the time, it was a well thought out plan. Um,
Like
I
most
would,
18-year-olds.
right. I would say I really didn't enjoy school. I love learning. School is not my cup of tea. The format of the way they teach and it's really tough for me to stay focused. And I was thinking about a book that was written. I think it was by a guy named William Bennett. Is college really worth it? And if you read through there, I mean, it really challenges the thinking of whether you just follow with all your buddies and go to college and not really sure what you're doing or what you're up to. I mean, in today, the investment for college has gotten so much bigger than it was when I went to
Oh,
college. So, I mean, if for it to be worth it, you got to consider like what's your major, what's your future earning potential, how much debt are you going to incur, and really consider whether that's the right plan of attack. I always thought it was really weird when people would go to school to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't understand that. Like there's a degree for that. I don't even know
right.
why that's even necessary. If you got an idea and there's a problem to solve, go do it and learn by tapping in some of the greatest mentors in the community. I don't know that you have to go to school to do that. So, but I ended up going into the Marine Corps with a buddy of mine named Larry. He and I played baseball together, so we went in together, and both of us were really, as you would say, gung ho going into the Marine Corps. So we spent 18 weeks on Paris Island. Didn't leave the island. Both of us were competing. We wanted to be the number one graduate of our basic training. So 80 guys started, 38 finished. And I thought for sure he was going to be the guy that ended up being the number one graduate and getting his dress blues, but it ended up being me. And I still don't believe it today because it seemed like all signs pointed that Larry was going to get his dress blues. So that's how I got into the Marine Corps. And, it really was a pretty amazing experience. I mean, probably the two things that came out of it was the concept of the rule of three. In times of stress, people can only focus and handle three things. And it took me a while to learn that in business because as an entrepreneur, I have a new idea every day. So I would come into my office, I would meet with my, sales leader or, a development leader, and here I got a new idea. And all of a sudden there's like 60 new ideas, and the stress level of my team continues to rise, and they're about to quit because they can't even get anything done
Right.
until I come up with a new idea. The other thing is, the concept of aiming for a 70% solution. That's the other thing I think is, so many people try to take a perfectionist approach to a problem. And it's, in my opinion, it's better to act if you got like 70% of the story put together and the direction and kind of adjust from there rather than trying to put together a perfect plan of attack.
A couple of different things. One on your in terms of college, I totally agree, and I think somebody else told me about that book, but William Bennett, that was he the Secretary of Education for one of the
Yes,
administrations? Okay, yeah. So
sure
obviously
was.
not very knowledgeable in the education space. So he's writing a book
Right.
because I, and the thing is, it's so different today than when our generation growing up. There's so many different ways to learn, and my when I taught at KU for a semester and then I guest lectured a lot, the number one question 100% of the time I get is, and they're obviously already in college, but should I go to graduate school?
Mhm.
And I tell you, I said, look, I'm going to give you my opinion. Don't run home and tell your parents, what I say. This is just for
Yeah.
you. But I'm going to tell you, and I have my MBA, but when I got it, it was a different generation of time. I got it paid for. I did it at night right after I graduated college. And I think it meant more. Today, there's so many different ways to learn. And if you're not going to a Wharton, a Stanford, a Harvard, a Darden, name the top echelon schools, doesn't mean as much. I'm not saying don't do it. There's some things you need if you want to be teach at the college level, at the highest levels. You need your doctorate in education. I get all that, but I mean, you know, NBA. I don't know. You can. It's like you said, Glenn. You can build a business. Like
Right.
you can go get Shopify and start hawking stuff. Like
That's right.
when you were 22 selling T-shirts, you would have been on Shopify.
Right.
Like you would have created that, something from that, and that's your MBA.
It is.
You're gonna run something where you have to get customers and make money and manage. But I mean, like,
Exactly.
so yeah, just yeah, and I love the rule of three and the 70% solution. So that's great teaching in terms of the Marines. I think the entrepreneurial startup word now is the MVP, minimum viable product, right? You
Yeah.
just need something, and it's going to go over through many iterations. But um, so
Sure. For me, like one more comment on that,
yeah,
because I'm kind of ADD and I'm all over the place at all times. And, a lot of people think that, oh, I got to treat ADD and, like with a pill or something because, oh man, they can't focus. But my thought is it's really helped me to focus on multiple things at the same time. I think it's a strength than it is a weakness.
right.
But by having that and knowing that you're kind of all over the place, you got to have the structure in place. You got to have the ability to have clarity in what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, to focus on the right things and to make sure your team are focused on the right things so you can actually execute. Otherwise, if you're just all over the place with no clarity and no focus, I see those entrepreneurs all the time and they don't get anything accomplished. And, many times they're not the best version of the company they can be.
Yeah, it's interesting. So the key is self-awareness, know thyself. Socrates. You
Yeah.
obviously are. Well, we're all becoming masters at different things, but I mean, it's a journey. But you obviously that's a strength of yours, as well as because you're definitely a visionary. But enough to I love that rule of three. I've never even heard that before because you're totally right because you would drive people crazy like because you're going to have 10 ideas a day and you
Yes.
want to share it with people, so and then they're going to be like, yeah, I'm working on the 10 things you told me yesterday or
Right.
whatever, and they get stressed because they're
For
more
sure.
operators, implementers, in the EOS language, integrators, where
Yes.
they're working in their lanes and what they're experts in. So yeah, that's very interesting. So you get out of the Marines, learn a lot. Like, did you have a plan? What was kind of the next step for you?
No, I really didn't. I had the t-shirt business, sportswear business I founded, when I was in college and in the Marine Corps. I went back to Dallas and I just started doing that. And then I also worked at a comedy club as well at night, waiting tables. And I, had a brief stint working at a hotel. So I was doing three things at the same time, try to figure out like make enough money to support myself and have the ability to build this business. But luckily, I worked at the comedy club because this cute little girl named Liz worked there too, and that's where I met her. at the comedy club, Improv Comedy Club in Dallas, Texas. And, we waited tables, bartended there, and it was pretty fun. But, we got to meet some of the Jerry Seinfeld, David Spade. David Spade ended up crashing on my couch after he opened up for a couple people at the Dallas Comedy Club. So,
Wow.
yeah, it was a great experience. I mean,
Yeah.
a long time ago. I can't believe it's been 30 something years ago. I mean, seems like just yesterday.
Wow. Two questions. One, where is Liz now?
Oh yeah, so Liz is my wife.
I thought so, but I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I love the way you tiptoed around that question. Yeah, yeah. So she was from Kansas City, and that's how I ended up here in
Okay.
Kansas City in 1990 because we made a trip, a trip over Easter, and I said, man, this place is amazing. I love
Yeah.
Kansas City. It'd be a great place to raise a family and start a career. So
Wow, that's a great story. I love that. This one is a little more shallow. Do you remember the best comeback by a comedian at the comedy club after they got heckled?
I wish I did. There were some good ones. I'm the kind of guy though that can't even remember the movie that he watched over the weekend, and I'm trying to tell somebody, oh Jeff, this was a great movie. Well, what was it called? I can't remember, but like I have this ability to forget what I think are meaningless things that really don't matter.
Yeah, that's fine. I won't share mine. But I did see Jerry Seinfeld at Caroline's in New York City before his first appearance on Johnny Carson, like right
Wow.
before it. Yeah, and he did heckle one of my friends, and I can't remember what he said, but I did see Jerry. So it looks like you started your first kind of major company in the waste management space.
I did.
Talk
Yeah.
about that and how, your t-shirts, you're doing multiple jobs, hotel, bartending, waiting tables at the comedy club, t-shirt business. Talk about that transition.
Yeah, so we ended up moving to Kansas City in 1990, and I really had no idea what I was going to be doing. We continued doing T-shirts. My wife, my girlfriend at the time, and I would do T-shirts on the side. And I remember, there was a time KU won the national championship in the early '90s, so we quickly got a design together and got a bunch of T-shirts printed, and then actually went door to door selling T-shirts back in the early '90s.
Wow.
So to supplement our income and made some really good money. And we also did the same thing when Tom Landry retired from the Dallas Cowboys. So that was kind of our thing we would do when something big happened. We'd get a T-shirt going.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Exec HQ, a C-suite fractional firm providing elite executives for your business. If you're having challenges taking your business to the next level, if you want to augment your leadership team, or prepare your company for increased growth, profitability, and an eventual successful exit, we have seasoned executives from every C-suite position ensuring a perfect fit for your needs and the dynamics of your industry. You will work with senior leaders who like to roll up their sleeves while checking their egos at the door. They can help your business in specific services such as strategic planning, executive leadership coaching, financial management, corporate governance, marketing, sales management, and many other advisory solutions vital to your business success. That's exechq.com. To learn more, go to exechq.com or email Jeff Palacio at jeff.palacio@exechq.com.
How I got in the trash business is kind of a wild story. I was meeting with a guy down at the Kansas City Club and just having a beer, and the guy next to us was really upset. He was screaming and yelling into his phone, and we couldn't. After he hung up, I said, "Hey, is everything okay?" And he goes, "I hate fucking Deffenbaugh. And I went, who's Deffenbaugh? And that's how I got in the trash business. He said, that's my trash company. I've got about 30 guys on a job site right now making $26.50 an hour prevailing wage, and they're standing around waiting for our trash containers to be emptied because we're hand wrecking a building. And I went, oh, well, and we started talking about it, and I was just kind of joking around at the moment, like, well, maybe I should get a couple trucks and some containers and take care of your trash. And he goes, let's do it. So that was my very first customer. And so he literally wrote on a piece of paper, on a napkin sort of thing, that, hey, this we have this many pickups a year. We pay this amount. I'm willing to pay that to you. And I went to the bank, and a guy named Pete Rozelle at First Business Bank on the Plaza, I met with him and shared what I was trying to do. And he said, wow, this sounds like a really good business. I think we could do this, because I found 2 beat up old trash trucks and 40 beat up old containers. So we ended up, he said, hey, well, how long have you been in the trash business? So I could take this to committee. And I go, well, if you give me the money for this equipment, today's the first day. And he goes, oh, that's not good. Like, I thought for sure it was not going to happen. But they came back, and a guy named Rick, I can't remember his last name, he was the president, and they both called me and said, hey, we're going to give you the money. And that's how I ended up getting into the trash business, which was, I feel really blessed that they gave me a shot. Like, that is really hard to do today, to get capital for assets to start a business. I mean, because banks don't usually lend to people that need money. They're willing to lend to people that don't necessarily need money. So
Right.
it's kind of flipped a little bit over the last 30 plus years.
Yeah, so interesting. I mean, you know, you're in your late 20s around that period, sounds like. I mean, just ballsy. I mean, really,
I don't know.
yeah, I mean, to do all that, and to build a business. And I mean, I really, like, everybody now is like, you do research, and you're definitely a person of action. There's no messing around. This guy at the Kansas City club, Garage Club, whatever it was, needs a new waste management company.
Well, I got to say, like you talked about, most people do research, but I do, before I get into a business, I spend a lot of time digging
Mhm.
into research. And the thing that I think is most important to understand whenever you're considering a business is the competitive landscape. Who are the competitors? What are they doing? How are they doing it? How are they setting themselves apart? How are they charging for their services? If you know all that, then you can set up a way to compete. And I'll give you one example of that. Deffenbaugh, they charged $200 a pickup. We charged between $400 and $500 a pickup. So how would you be able to compete against that? That is a 250% higher cost structure. Well, here's how we competed. So if we went into a commercial account and they had 10 pickups a month and they were paying $2,000 a month for Deffenbaugh services, we would go in and do some analysis on the trash. What we'd uncover is that 60% of it was recyclable. So it was cardboard, paper, wood, metal. And so the first thing we would do is pull that out of the waste stream. So now we've reduced the number of pickups from 10 until 4. And that recyclable material, depending on market conditions, can generate income back to that business. Then the other 4 pickups, we would bring in a compaction equipment that would compact that down to 1 load. So it had a 5-to-1 ratio. So now they're paying $2,000 a month then. Now they're paying $500 a month, but that $500 a month in most months would be offset by the recyclable material and the value of the cardboard or metal or paper.
Wow.
So that's how we competed against the big boys. And the only way I was able to do that was to do the market research and understand exactly how things were happening.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to imply that you just jumped into the business, but
No, no,
I
I
mean,
get it.
most people would spend a year where
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure between that, drink with the person at the Carriage Club or KC Club to when you start the business was not a year. I'm just going
No,
to
it
get
wasn't. It was really fast. It was
right,
36 months.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so interesting. So you run that business, and it looked like you got bought out. Is that?
Yeah, yeah. We ended up selling the business to Waste Management, and at the time, we also had a dirt company that did move dirt and graded sites, and also did some hand wrecking of buildings. So I was planning to continue building those two businesses in addition to the trash business, since we're getting rid of the trash business. But at the deal table, they offered us a premium if I would stay with the business, stay with and stay with Waste Management for 2 years. And what I thought was going to happen was they were just going to, make sure I was around to keep the business and make sure the contracts were fulfilled. But within a couple of weeks, they just fired everybody and asked me to be the president of a $500 million business for them that had never made a profit. And they just said, "Hey, Glenn, just do your thing, and we're going to try to swap this business with another publicly traded company and allow them to tuck in this business and make more profit, and they would do the same for us." So I just kind of did my thing and analyzed the business like I would any other thing I've ever had a chance to lead, and ended up turning the business around where it was making 22% EBITDA. And then when they brought the other swap in, it was a company called BFI. BFI had some crappy business that they were giving Waste Management, and Waste Management ended up giving them a really profitable business generating 22% EBITDA. And they weren't too happy with me at the time, but that's they asked me to run the business. And
So interesting. So you're in this career where you're just really crushing it. I mean, I don't know how much revenue your Deco Waste Systems produced annually, but it probably wasn't $500 million
oh
a
no,
year,
not at all.
right?
It was
So now you're like, what was the big two questions really? What was the big learning like now running a lot bigger business, as well as you're really an entrepreneur, startup, visionary, like to the nth extreme, and now you're working for a big corporate Goliath, really. So
yeah.
we'll talk about that transition and both of those things that I asked.
Yeah, so that was a big change for me. The very first end of the first quarter that I was after leading Waste Management, I get a call from the CFO, and he says, "Hey, Glenn, we need more revenue." And I said, being the young guy I was, I said, "Okay, let me get back to you." And so I hung up the phone, went to my CFO, and said, "Hey," his name was Larry. I said, "Hey, Larry." I just got a weird call from the CFO. He's asking for more revenue. What's he talking about? And he goes, "Oh, he's just asking us to accrue some additional revenue. It's the end of the quarter. It's pretty typical." And I'm like, "Well, Larry, did we actually did we send all the invoices out for the month? And we've billed everything we were supposed to bill, right?" "Yeah, yeah, Glenn, yeah." And I said, "Well, why would we accrue revenue that is not there? It just doesn't make any sense." I go, "Larry, just don't respond to him. Just ignore him." And he goes, "Well, he's going to call back and he's going to be pissed." And I go, I don't worry about it." So we just let it go. And then a few weeks later, I had this giant TV in my office. Like when I say giant TV, I don't mean a big screen. I mean one that weighed like 300 pounds, and it was
Right.
up on this mount, and it was probably a 19-inch TV or a really small TV. And I always had Bloomberg on there. And all of a sudden, I saw the CFO, the CEO, the entire C-suite on Bloomberg, and they were getting fired for cooking the books at Waste Management.
Wow.
And I'm like, man, this is like when you talk about learning experiences, I'm just a young kid that like runs small businesses, and then I have an opportunity to come into a publicly traded company and see how that all works. And it was a great learning experience for me to know that, man, this is probably not the kind of environment I operate best in. And so then the waste management ended up selling to the number 3 waste company in the world, which was USA Waste. And USA Waste brought their colors into the mix, which were green and yellow, removed the burgundy, and kept the name Waste Management. So, and about that time, that's when I exited the business.
Yeah, and it looked like you went to Shred It after that to franchise. So talk about that transition. You had your own company, probably made a little bit of money.
Yeah,
So talk about the Shred It experience.
yeah. So it seemed like a natural transition to, uh, I had an opportunity to have hundreds of trucks and understand how to how to route those and how to build a business that's based on service and trucks. It was a natural progression, the cool thing about Shred It was it was really the concept was really early, like that the idea that there's dumpster divers out there that you know are hired to go into businesses and get corporate intel. I mean, was kind of a new concept back then, and we had an opportunity to kind of share that story early on in the Shred It days, and kind of share the value of how important it is to have trucks come on site to shred documents on site so they don't ever leave your office. Because the other option was that recycling companies would take that and recycle it and but then that was still kind of an exposed thing. So we had some really great customers. Shook Hardy and Bacon was one of our customers, and we would have 2 trucks out in front of their office shredding documents on a daily basis that were related to the tobacco litigation. I mean, it was, a lot of these boxes, I mean, they were never even touched, but they had to get rid of them. And, I was, what my partner today in my current business, we always like to joke around in funny ways to, change, the pricing of a business or whatever. So he said, well, what you should do is have like 3 different levels of businesses. Like there's secret, and that's one price. And then there's, more secret, and that's a higher price. And then super secret would be, like, so you see some stuff on these papers, hey, that's, in order for me to forget that, I'm going to have to charge you a little extra for that one. So I thought that was kind of funny, but I had an opportunity to lead a team that we ended up growing the largest Shred It franchise in the network in Kansas City, Salt Lake, and Boise. And after exiting that, I decided I didn't want to do trucks anymore. I was done with trucks. You'd show up and there'd be flat tires. Drivers don't show up. The trucks are broken down. I mean, there's just so many things that are out of your control for the most part. So that's when I decided I was going to do something else, but I didn't know what it was.
So, Glenn, you leave Shred It or after building the largest franchise partnership in the network. What was next for you? Was there a plan, or just like, hey, made some money, I'll figure it out? What was it like at that point?
Yeah, so I was on the sidelines. My kids were pretty young back then, so I had a chance to spend a lot more time with my kids, and which was pretty exciting. But then I got a call from a vendor of mine that installed all the phone systems in my businesses for the last 10 years, and he said, "Hey, I want to introduce you to a guy that may need your help on something." And I said, "Okay, cool." So we went to lunch at Chili's, and come to find out, what he was trying to do was provide an alternative way for consumers to get funding they need when something arises. They got a veterinary bill, their car breaks down, and they just need cash. So the question for me at that lunch was, could you build a lending platform and handle customer service and collections? And I said, well, this is pretty interesting concept because, with 300 plus trash truck drivers, I'd have a dozen or two guys in my office every week asking for $200 until their next pay period. So I knew the problem existed, and I was pretty excited to build a solution to resolve that. And so, yeah, I built my very first technology platform that handled customer service collections. We grew that from 10 people to 2,500 people and about 2.5 billion in revenue. And it was my very first experience with how important technology is to a business and how you can make integrations with other partners to streamline processes and to grow your business. It was a great experience. I learned a lot, and I think probably the biggest thing I learned is technology is my space. I mean, I see the value in it, and that's how I ended up with getting into NavMD.
Yeah, so talk about NavMD. That's that's where you're at now. You're the managing partner, and I love the. I mean, just we had lunch about 6 weeks ago, and you talked about, and I love the analytics involved, and the predictive modeling because that's my background, and it's almost like you took your snow shoveling and lawn mowing philosophy as well as some of your other early businesses and just add value and expecting nothing in return but providing the value first. So talk about NavMD and why you got into that space.
Same reason I got into every space, really. I saw a problem, and the problem was around employer sponsored benefits. Set out to buy a business in 2018. And when I found NavMD in Knoxville, Tennessee, I saw that it was trying to help solve the problem. And it really related to my story for 30 years as an entrepreneur. Whether I was leading my personal trash company or waste management or the Shred-it franchise or the business that I grew to 2,500 people, there was one thing that all those businesses had in common. No matter how big or small they were, publicly traded, privately held, it didn't matter. We were frustrated with benefits. And when I say frustrated with benefits, I mean 172 million Americans get their health insurance from their employer. And when you look at the trend over the last 20 years, it's not good. The cost has gone from 1.2 trillion to over $4.7 trillion. Employers are frustrated because just like me in the C-suite, I thought my number two expense on my P&L was not controllable. Our corporate earnings were impacted, and ultimately it cut into our enterprise value at the time of sale. The biggest problem, though, is how this impacts employees. They're getting buried in debt because of contribution rates, deductibles, and copays continuing to rise. And during that same 20-year period, earnings are up 103%, inflation is up 71%. That shows a pretty good sign. I mean, that means employees are taking home more than than inflation. But then when you factor in what the employee premium costs have gone up for employees, that has increased 288%. And that's why 66% of all bankruptcies are related to medical debt. So when I found NavMD, I was so excited to acquire it because we created the mission to partner with the most innovative companies in America to transform employee benefits one plan at a time. And the blueprint for fixing employee benefits starts with data. So that's how we got into this business. And if you have some other questions relating to it, I'd be happy to kind of dig into it.
Just tell the story how you go into a business and approach them. It's such a great way to add value and show the value of what you could provide. So I'd love you to share that with the listeners.
We operate under two brands. The first one is NavMD, and that is geared toward benefit advisors, TPAs, stop loss carriers, captives, and solution partners. And what we do is our platform empowers them with tools and strategies to help them stand out in a competitive market, break the status quo, and give service teams 40% more time to work on strategy instead of being bogged down in meaningless tasks. The other brand is Claims AI. And Claims AI is built for the employer. And this helps employers identify, evaluate, and resolve potential risk. That comes when as a business, you're trying to be compliant, meet your fiduciary duties, and drive better plan performance. I'll give you an example. The Teamsters have about 2,000 people on their plan, and they hired us to identify, evaluate, and resolve risk with their plan. So they pay us about $24,000 a year to access our platform. But when we looked at the data, one of the things we identified was how many overpayments there were because of the auto adjudication process. So when a claim goes into the third-party administrator, there's an automated process that happens 80 to 90% of the time. When the claim is paid, it's auto adjudicated, which is great because TPAs have to be efficient at what they do. They use technology to help them be more efficient. But occasionally, the provider, the hospital, the doctor sends that invoice to the plan and it's not correct. But the auto adjudication process pays it anyway. So we were able to identify $2.4 million in medical overpayments. And we will go back and recover those from the provider. And, as you can see, that's roughly 100 to 1 return on investment with just implementing one strategy to help employers be compliant, meet their fiduciary duties, and drive better plan performance.
Yeah, no, as we talk about at lunch, it's just, I think it's such a great benefit. How do people learn more about NavMD?
We have a website, navmd.com or claims.ai.
Yeah, claims with a K too.
Yes, claims with a K. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. The thing we're doing now is when you look at our intelligence platform, it's, we bring data in, we normalize it, we enrich it to help tell a better story. And then we've created easy to use visualizations to just streamline the process. And these visualizations require a development crew to develop these visualizations to help answer questions. But we're in the process of migrating our business from a business intelligence development business to a AI first business, which not only streamlines what we do, but it helps our clients get answers to questions a lot quicker. Right. So the way that would work is our platform's called Adviso, and you can ask Adviso anything. So the question you could ask is, hey, how many diabetics do I have on the plan? Can you rank them from highest to lowest and include how much we've spent on claims for each one of those individuals? And it'll just, within seconds, just spit out that information and allow you, instead of having a team build a visualization that they can be deployed into the platform, it's part of our conversational AI chatbot that will answer those questions in the future.
So I'd love your advice to two groups of people. One is kind of that person graduating from high school and or college. What advice would you have for them as they start navigating their career journey?
Well, I mean, I think it goes back to even before they went to college. I'd rewind to high school and just encourage them not to just follow suit with all their buddies just because that's what everybody's doing. Everybody's going to college. There's so many other opportunities out there. And it's not just around entrepreneurship and starting your own business. I mean, plumbers are making $250,000 a year. There are a lot of opportunities to do things that might be better suited for your personality. So many people I ask today, I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Do you love what you do? And a lot of them hate what they do.
Right.
Like, I don't even get that. If I hated what I was doing, I would do something else. And I love hearing people love what they do, no matter what they do. So I know that doesn't really answer your question, but hopefully it gives a little.
No, I love the advice because I think you're right. I mean, college is not for everyone. There's so many ways to earn a living and doing things you love to do.
And still be committed to a lifetime of learning. I mean, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're not learning. It means
Right.
you're learning in a different way. And it
Right.
doesn't cost as much either. It just takes a little longer amount of time.
The second group is somebody that gets promoted and now is responsible for a team of people. Anyone could be a leader. You don't have to lead a team. But once you get that official title and have people that you're responsible for, what leadership advice would you have for them as they begin that journey in their career?
As a leader, I believe that it's our job to support the people that are on our team. It's our job to take out roadblocks. It's our job to provide them the tools they need. It's our job to support them. So just because you bring somebody in, you don't just say, "Hey, go for it." Make it happen. We got to take responsibility for helping them grow as a leader. The other thing I'd say is tempo matters. When I interview people, I like to see what their sense of urgency looks like. I mean, the way they walk, the way they drive their cars. I mean, I'm not suggesting that everybody should speed 20, 30 miles an hour over the speed limit, but pace and urgency is really, really important. And I think as a leader, because you don't know what the market conditions are going to be tomorrow. You know what the market conditions are today. So today is the day when you got to seize the moment and make something happen. So that's why I think urgency and tempo are really important as a leader.
I like what you said about how they drive a car, or another example you gave. There's a famous founder, and I don't remember exactly who it is, but it's not. This is not my original idea. But during a series of interviews, they would go out for a meal. The founder would get to the restaurant early, talk to the waiter, and say, "Mess up this person's order." So mess it up,
Yeah.
and and it's fine. I'll tip you. I'll reward you, because he wanted to see how that person reacted to a waiter and how he treated the waiter or waitress based on that. I think it's brilliant.
Wow. That is brilliant. I'm going to try that.
There you go.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, thank you so much for being on the Corporate Couch today. I really enjoyed our conversation. Have a great rest of the day.
Jeff, thank you. You too.
We met in like 2016, and I have to say, we had 30 minutes for coffee, and it was outside a nice place in Kansas City and Leawood called Park Place, having coffee. 30 minutes. He knew everybody. So we maybe talked 10, 15 minutes. But I love his career. I mean, he's just so good. Fighter, attack squadron, graduated #1 in his boot camp class. He has a couple different affiliations with charities, the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Dream Factory. I think he's been there 25 plus years. Married for 34 years. Great story on how he met his wife.
Yeah.
He was working at a comedy club, and he met his wife there.
What has he not done? He has so many stories. It's amazing.
Yeah, lifelong entrepreneur. Did lawns, snow shoveled, and did them first, and then knocked on the door for money. So they weren't jobs. He was just like, oh, okay. Then the guy is so good. He goes, well, I wanted to buy my parents and my brothers and sisters Christmas presents, so I rang the doorbell and sang Christmas carols, and the people would give me money. I'm like, this guy's unbelievable. I mean, he had the largest Shred It franchise, T-shirt business, meets a guy at a bar.
Meets a guy at a bar and says, I think I'll go out and buy a trash truck.
Now, it was one of the Kansas City Country Club's bar, but it was a bar. But yeah, he goes, I'll start a waste management business. Know nothing about it. I mean, obviously he didn't start it overnight. He researched it, but made a successful business. And they sold to Waste Management, one of the biggest ones of all time. Threw in a couple of references to doing T-shirts for Lee Iacocca and meeting Zig Ziglar. So just, you got to love Glenn, really.
That could have gone on and on all day, and it was an amazing interview.
Yeah. What did you take out
of it? Well,
I
got a lot out of it. About everything that you mentioned, I had written down in my notes. One of the other things that he talked about it, but it kind of goes along with his Christmas caroling or snow shoveling story. And that is, one of his philosophies is to provide value first. Provide value for your customer first. without expecting anything in return. So one of his philosophies, and I think it's a lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs could learn, is to go out and provide that value first. Think of your customer, think of what am I going to do for him, and then the rewards will eventually come back to you later. Don't worry too much about the rewards early in life, because he certainly wasn't worried about it. He was thinking about creating a trash business, creating a shredding business, creating a snow shoveling business. He wasn't even thinking about actually earning money doing it. But he knew that that would come later. And I think that's a very interesting philosophy to have in life.
Yeah, providing value, no expectation. Like, yeah, he's the managing partner of NavMD. It's a great company, and that's what he does. It's like I think a free assessment he gives, and proof of concept. I love it. What leadership advice would you want to give our great listeners today, Joe?
The leadership advice comes from a philosopher that we've heard from before, and that's Yogi Berra. Yogi Berra, of course, was a expert in jazz music. So one of the things that he said about jazz was he said this. He said, all the great jazz players alive today are dead, except for the ones that are still alive. But so many of them are dead that the ones who are still alive are dying to be like the ones who are dead. Matter of fact, some people would even kill for it.
God bless Yogi.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Corporate Couch. If you enjoy the podcast, I would love for you to take 2 minutes out of your day to rate us 5 stars and write a review. Please join me next week to learn from another great leader sharing their professional journey and insights.